There's definitely a pull, isn't there, to owning something solid, something you can feel,
Oh, absolutely.
especially when you're thinking about, building wealth for the future, for retirement. We're so used to thinking about stocks and bonds, these paper assets.
Right. Abstract concepts, almost.
But gold, that feels different. It's tangible.
That sense of something real, something that has held value through the ages. It's naturally appealing when you're looking for long-term stability. It really is.
Absolutely. And that brings us right to the topic we're tackling today,
Mm-hmm.
gold IRAs.
Mm-hmm.
These accounts are designed to let you put physical gold into your retirement savings. And the question that probably jumps to mind for anyone considering this is, can I actually physically hold the gold that's in my IRA?
It's the most intuitive part of the concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
Physical gold in my IRA. You picture having it accessible. You picture holding it.
To really get into the details and answer that question, we're doing this deep dive based entirely on one source. It's an article titled, Can I Take Physical Possession of the Gold in My IRA? It's authored by Doug Young and published by the Gold IRA Company's Bulletin, which is presented as an independent educational resource.
Got it. So our mission is clear. We're going to unpack everything this specific article tells us about gold IRAs.
Yeah.
Their rules, benefits, potential downsides, focusing particularly on that exact question of taking physical possession.
Right.
We're sticking strictly to what Doug Young's article lays out. No outside opinions, just this source.
And right up front, according to this source, the direct answer to can I take physical possession is yes.
Ah.
By UUT. And the article immediately adds a very big but. You must follow strict IRS regulations to do so, and it flags significant implications, especially if you haven't reached retirement age yet, like 59 and a half.
That but is where the real story is, isn't
Yeah.
it? The source makes it clear it's not a simple matter of storing it however you like. It's really about understanding the rules that govern this specific type of retirement account.
Exactly. So let's dive into what this article tells us. We'll look at what makes gold IRAs unique, the specific IRS rules it mentions about purity and storage, the process it describes for taking possession, and the consequences involved, all drawn directly from this one source.
Okay, let's get started by looking at the overview of gold IRAs presented in the article. It describes them as a type of self-directed IRA, an SDIRA.
Right, SDRA.
Which essentially means you, the account holder, have more control over the investments you choose to hold within it, in this case, physical gold.
Okay.
The article contrasts this with standard IRAs that typically hold, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, those paper assets we mentioned.
Yep.
It notes that holding physical gold bars and coins in this way is often seen as a strategy for diversifying a retirement portfolio and potentially hedging against inflation and economic uncertainty.
What stands out from the article's description of gold IRAs is that you're owning a tangible asset. The bulletin emphasizes that this allows for the possibility of physical possession.
Right, the possibility.
But immediately links it back to the requirement of following specific IRS rules to maintain the account's tax advantage status.
Which is key.
It also highlights the historical tendency of gold to maintain value during economic downturns, suggesting a sense of security.
And this is where the IRS regulations become, well, really important, according to the source, to keep the IRA benefiting from tax deferral or tax-free growth.
Depending on if it's traditional or Roth, though the article doesn't focus too much on that distinction.
Exactly. But either way, you must comply with rules. The article specifically mentions requirements for the purity of the gold, the types of gold products allowed.
Okay.
And most crucially for our question, the mandatory storage in IRS-approved depositories. The bulletin warns that failing to follow these rules can lead to penalties and even disqualify the entire IRA.
Wow, okay. So drilling down a bit, the article clarifies that a gold IRA is a form of SDIRA managed in conjunction with a gold IRA company and a custodian. Now, the source doesn't go super deep into what a custodian is, but generally in these accounts, the custodian is the financial institution that legally holds the assets on your behalf, making sure everything's compliant with IRS rules.
And the Gold IRA company helps facilitate the purchase and setup, kind of guides you through it.
Makes sense.
And the article gets quite specific about what kind of gold qualifies. It's not just any gold item you find. No. The IRS mandates a minimum fineness of 0.995, meaning it must be at least 99.5% pure.
0.995, okay.
Doug Young's article lists examples of approved items like American Gold Eagle coins, Canadian Gold Maple Leaf coins, and certain gold bars from refiners approved by the IRS. Verifying this purity is crucial, the article notes, to avoid penalties.
Gotcha. So the benefits section in the bulletin highlights a few key points. It suggests gold can act as a hedge against inflation because its value might rise as the purchasing power of currency decreases.
A common argument for gold.
It's described as a tangible asset offering reassurance, and the article mentions its history of stability during economic downturns.
Conversely, the article also covers risks, and it's important to look at those too. Market volatility is one. Gold prices do fluctuate.
Sure.
There are also costs involved, like storage and insurance fees. We'll probably get into those more. And significantly, it reiterates that taking physical possession before reaching retirement age.
That 59.5 mark again?
Yep, that can trigger tax penalties and early withdrawal fees. Big ones.
Okay, let's really focus on those crucial IRS rules the article emphasizes. First, the purity guidelines. The source makes the 0.995 fineness requirement crystal clear, stressing its importance for both value and compliance.
Right.
Verifying this isn't just a suggestion. The article presents it as essential. Absolutely essential.
Then we get to the storage rule, which is perhaps the most counterintuitive point when you first think about owning physical gold in an IRA.
Yeah, this is the big one for our question.
The source is absolutely unambiguous. You cannot store IRA gold at home. Not under your mattress, not in a personal safe. The IRS requires it to be held in an approved depository.
Approved depository.
These depositories are described as highly secure facilities that meet specific IRS criteria for safety and compliance. Think Fort Knox, but, for IRAs.
Okay. This is where it really impacts that idea of physical possession we started with. Even though you own the physical gold within the IRA structure,
legally, it's yours.
The IRS rules mean its physical location must be at one of these approved third-party storage facilities until you actually take a distribution.
Exactly, until you take it out of the IRA structure.
The article even provides examples of well-regarded depositories, mentioning Delaware Depository for its security, Brinks Global Services for its reputation, and International Depository Services.
And this requirement directly ties into the tax implications and penalties discussed in the source. The article explains that if you take a distribution of gold from your IRA before age 59.5,
here we go,
you're typically hit with a 10% early withdrawal penalty on the value of that distribution.
Ouch, 10%.
On top of that, the value of the gold you receive is added to your taxable income for the year.
So it bumps up your income.
Potentially, significantly, depending on the value, yeah. Increasing your overall tax liability. This is how you gain personal physical possession, but it comes at a cost within the IRA framework if you do it early.
Okay. The article also touches on required minimum distributions, RMDs.
Ah, yes, RMDs.
Which for traditional IRAs typically start at age 73 now. The source notes that if your IRA holds physical gold, figuring out how to meet these RMDs means you'll likely need to liquidate some of the gold.
Sell it, basically.
Which the article describes as a potentially complex process that could involve additional taxes and fees at that stage as well.
Right. RMDs, just to clarify for listeners, are the minimum amounts the government requires you to withdraw from your retirement accounts annually once you reach a certain age.
Got it. So revisiting that core question.
Yep.
Taking physical possession.
The big one.
The article confirms it's technically possible to take possession from your IRA. But the caveats are significant because of the stringent IRS rules designed to prevent the account holder from having personal access within the tax-advantaged wrapper.
Right, within the wrapper.
Without triggering a taxable event. The source explicitly states you risk severe penalties if you try to store the gold at home or in a personal safe while it's still formally held by the IRA.
It must remain in an IRS-approved depository until you initiate a taxable distribution. Full stop.
And the process the article describes for actually taking physical possession involves contacting your Gold IRA company and the custodian to request a distribution.
A formal process.
Yeah, you submit a formal request and then coordinate with the company and depository to arrange for the secured delivery of the gold to you. It's not like just walking into a bank vault.
No, definitely not. And the article circles back to those penalties for taking this step before age 59.5 a while. The 10% early withdrawal penalty on the value of the gold, plus that value being added to your taxable income.
So it hammers that point home.
It really does. The source strongly advises weighing these financial consequences carefully and suggests consulting a financial advisor, which seems like sound advice.
Shifting slightly, the article does briefly weigh the general pros and cons of owning physical gold, whether inside an IRA or not. Advantages listed include its tangible nature, its potential role as an inflation hedge,
Things we touched on.
and its perceived stability during economic uncertainty.
The disadvantages mentioned are the ongoing costs for storage and security, which, as we've seen, are mandatory for IRA gold.
Right, you can't avoid those in an IRA context.
The potential for lower liquidity compared to selling stocks or bonds quickly.
Makes sense. Selling physical gold takes more effort.
And the complexity of maintaining IRS compliance for an IRA. The article also flags cost considerations like depository storage fees, insurance, and transaction fees when buying or selling. It adds up.
Given the complexities and potential risks the article outlines around taking physical possession while it's in the IRA, it does offer alternatives. The primary and simplest one is simply storing the gold in an approved depository, which, as the article points out, you have to do anyway if it's in the IRA.
Right. The article says this offers high security and ensures compliance with IRS regulations, removing the burden of managing compliance yourself and reducing theft risk. It's the standard compliant way.
The source also mentions other related options, like IRAs for other precious metals, such as silver, platinum, and palladium.
Diversifying within metals.
It briefly notes that gold ETFs, exchange-traded funds that track the price of gold, might be more liquid options.
Easier to buy and sell quickly, typically.
And it suggests reinvesting within self-directed IRAs allows for a broader array of asset choices beyond just gold. The article doesn't define ETFs or SDIRAs in massive depth, but positions them as different approaches to metals or diversification.
Just mentioning them as other avenues you might explore.
So if you're considering holding gold in your IRA based on this source, it offers a few steps. First, it recommends choosing a reputable Gold IRA company.
That seems critical.
This company helps manage the account, navigate compliance, and handle the complexities. The article suggests looking for a provider with a strong track record, transparent fees, and good customer support. Do your homework, basically.
Homework is essential here. Second, select an approved depository. Your Gold IRA company and custodian will typically provide guidance here.
Right.
The article advises considering factors like location, the security measures in place, insurance coverage, and the storage fees. It emphasizes selecting a facility that meets IRS requirements and provides peace of mind regarding the safety of your asset.
And third, monitor and manage your investment. The article suggests tracking the value of your gold, staying informed about market trends that could affect its price,
Because it does fluctuate.
making adjustments to your portfolio as needed, and potentially working with a financial advisor to help make informed decisions. It's not a set-it-and-forget-it thing, according to the source.
Definitely not. Bringing it all together, the article wraps up by summarizing the key points it presented. Yes, taking physical possession of gold from your IRA is possible, but only by strictly adhering to IRS regulations.
Right, the distribution rules.
Gold IRAs allow ownership of physical gold, often seen as a hedge. IRS rules are strict on purity and, critically, mandate storage in an approved depository while it's in the IRA.
That storage piece is key.
Taking possession before retirement age triggers tax penalties and fees. And finally, choosing reputable partners, the company, custodian, and depository is essential for security and compliance.
So the core message from this specific article by Doug Young is that while the idea of holding physical gold in your IRA is appealing and technically possible via distribution, keeping it within that tax advantage structure requires strict compliance with IRS rules, especially the mandatory depository storage, until you take that taxable distribution. Understanding these nuances from the source is absolutely critical if you're considering this.
It really reshapes that initial intuitive image of having your gold physically with you while it's still part of your active retirement fund. That's just not how it works under the rules described.
Okay, so this deep dive, based entirely on Doug Young's article, leaves us with a thought to consider, directly prompted by the source's details. If the IRS rules essentially require your physical gold to be stored in an approved depository, completely separate from your personal possession, unless you take a taxable distribution that triggers penalties and taxes.
Which is a big unless.
Does the primary benefit of a Gold IRA within the tax advantage framework lie less in that intuitive desire for personal physical control and more in its strategic role as a potential hedge against economic factors and a portfolio diversifier, as the article suggests, despite the regulatory constraints?
That's a great question. It certainly frames the decision as more about the asset's potential market performance and its role in a diversified portfolio governed by specific rules, rather than simply acquiring a physical item for immediate personal keeping within the IRA structure itself. The physical part is mostly about what you own, not where you keep it while it's tax advantaged.
Interesting food for thought there. And finally, echoing the peace of mind advice that resonated through our source material. Any significant financial decision, like exploring a gold IRA, should involve thorough research using reputable sources like the bulletin we just explored.
Definitely.
And consultation with qualified financial professionals. Your personal financial situation and goals are unique, and that should always guide your choices.
Absolutely critical advice. You need personalized guidance for decisions like these.